Hello. Hi. It's me, Ryan. Also, I probably go by Starlight now. On usual things, that's how I roll. But usually I'm like a variety streamer and I do like a bunch of video game stuff. But also in the background, I make video games. Well, I used to. We'll talk about that later on. Um, and what this thing is it's called I Wrapped Myself in 2024. This is like a yearly project that I do. I just kind of track some stats about myself and then I put them in a spreadsheet. And this is what this thing is. So I'm going to kind of go through with it and we're going to see what's happened throughout the year. I'm also going to talk about like what this thing is and what the past projects are and what happened in like 2024. Um, that's about it. A motto for every single one of these that I make is that we can now stop making games, everybody. That's it. We've made enough games. I have them in a list. We can just stop making games now. That's it. We're done. Let's get on with this thing. So, first off, what is this? This is a yearly project. Every year, as I said, I get together and I try to modify the way I play games by introducing like a criteria. That criteria can vary from year to year, but I introduce something and it's usually a weird thing that I do. This allows me to like gather data about my gaming habits, which again is fine. It allows me to gather data about my gaming habits, and I can just put that data in a spreadsheet and make it sing. And then hopefully this creates a bunch of new gaming habits for myself. So I'm hoping that that will happen. And yes, I understand it is very weird. It is totally weird that I do this, but that's just how I am. I'm kind of a weird person. Let's talk about some past projects. So I've been doing this since I was like very young. Like I'd probably like in my teens or something. I started keeping track of stuff. Obviously, I don't have like things from when I was a teenager. That would be wild. If I did, I'd show them because they'd be really embarrassing. But I do have some from like the last few years. So this is the 2022 project. It was a point system. It was designed so that I could buy less games. And the way that I did that is that I created a point system based on the games that I finished. And it kind of looked like this. This is the point system. You can see there's like criteria next to them, and then next to that, there are a series of points. So as an example, if it was a game that I finished and that was released in 2023, I would earn myself 25 points. If the playtime was less than 5 hours, that would earn me 100 points. If I completed the game, that would be another 10, and so on and so forth, right? Everything has a different counter next to it. And I also based like some of the stuff on like things that I usually play and things that I don't usually play. So as an example, love my JRPGs. Also, I'm calling them RPGs from now on. I love my RPGs. So I would only give myself 5 points for that. But something like a sports game, which I never play, or a fighting game or a strategy game, I give myself more points because I don't usually play those titles. Another thing to go with it was also like the games console of choice. What's very weird, and that I also just noticed right now, is that for some reason I wanted to play more games in that year, but I gave myself modern consoles would get less points, but classic would get more. That makes no sense. See, errors. Errors happen in data. It's just how it works. Anyway, that's the point system, right? So as would go on, I would collect a bunch of points, and based on the game, we would get a bunch of stats. So as you can see, like Mega Man 3 was a platformer. I played it in less than 5 hours. It was on a classic console. I completed it, so I netted myself 160 points, right? And you go down the list, and there's a bunch of different things on there, right? Squidlet, again, platformer, but on a modern console, got myself a few less points, and things that just went on and on. Like, the longer the game was, the less points I got, which was something that I wanted to do. And that was interesting. I generated a bunch of points. I played a bunch of terrible games. They weren't terrible. They were okay. Bloodstone is actually quite good. If you've not played 007 Bloodstone, I highly recommend it. It's actually like somebody made Call of Duty, but with James Bond. It's pretty good, actually. And yeah, so that's what the points ended up being. But when you have a series of points, you need to like spend them on things, right? So that's where the next part came in, which was this was the reward system that I made. So for every we'll go from left to right here. I had a series of points available to myself. In the next column, we had like a points spend, so that's how much I spent on, how much points I spent. Then the total points I've earned, the prizes, and then the cost of that and how many times I used it. The prizes were a bit different. I only included the buy game one here because there was different ones, but they didn't make much sense. When I made this system, it was not a very refined thing. I would have changed a lot of it in my later years, but here you go. So, you know, for every 1,000 points, I could like buy myself a new game. And that kind of worked. That was pretty good. I ended up playing a lot of games, and I ended up buying a lot less. So the system worked, everybody. We did it. I played a lot of shorter games to generate more points, so I was getting through a lot more games faster, and we did it. Good job. Also, this GIF, this is from DIY. It's a very good anime. Everybody should watch it. It's very cute. If you like to watch people just make things, it's very nice. All right, so that was like the 2022 project. Let's talk about the horrendous 2023 project. This was a purchasing order. And that what I wanted was I wanted to play new games. I wanted to be like, okay, for every game that I buy, I'm gonna play it, right? That's gonna be the rule. So I was like, great. So if I buy a game, then that game needs to be played in the order that I was purchased in, right? I was like, that's a great idea. That's so good. That's a fantastic idea. This cannot go wrong. So here's the list. That's the first 10 on the list, by the way. I will scoot out the way for the finished and skipped part now. This is the first 10. As you can see, 2 columns are like covered up right now. I also had this really like super smart idea to track how much I spent on games. So good. I'm a genius. I know. It was such a good idea. And you know, that worked out. That was pretty cool. I was like, all right, cool. So now I know how much I spend on games. Keep in mind, this is the first 10. I'll show you how much comes later on. And the purchasing order was a genius idea. I thought I cracked it. I was like, that's it. I'm done. I figured out how to play games, right? And then we kind of went on with the year, and I'll just say like it's a pretty good idea in theory. And as you can see, we did well. But if I'll just scoot out of the way here, you can kind of see that it didn't really work out really well. As you can see, I only really played the top 6. That's literally how far I got. That's the first 10 games, and I only got to the first 6. It just meant that basically I was buying newer games and I was not playing them, and that sucked. It just ended up that I didn't play any games from 2023. I just played everything before that, which was dumb. It was so stupid. And we can kind of look ahead. This is the last, I think, 10 games on the list. And we can kind of, say, oh, we already know I didn't play any of them. I didn't play any of them. Did that stop me buying a whole bunch of games? No, it didn't. I bought 123 games. And I didn't play any of them. What the hell? It was a stupid system. It was so dumb. And it also led to some really bad situations. Basically, my anxiety got like super out of control. I was looking at this big list of games and I was like, cool, I can't play any of them because my stupid thing that I did just stops me from playing them. Also, I didn't have a good year in 2023 anyway. 2023 was a bad year for me personally, so it didn't really work out. And so my anxiety got out of control and I had to go to therapy. It was really bad, but hey, we got through, we're fine. And yeah, it was pretty good. It wasn't good, it was terrible, it was awful, but we did it. Also, just so people know, this is Adventures with Anxiety. It's a very good game. It actually helps you understand anxiety really well. You can play it on your browser if you just Google Adventures with Anxiety. It will come up. But go play it. If you don't understand anxiety, it will make you understand anxiety in like, I think it's less than an hour. Very good game. Go play it. So now we know that, what the hell with the 2024 project? Um, I wanted to keep it simple. So I made a gaming journal. In When I was a young kid, like probably teenager, I kept like a gaming journal, and it was really good. I really enjoyed it. Basically, I would like play a game, and then I'd write about the game and be like, "Oh, this is interesting." Like, "Oh, I really like this," and I feel like the gaming journal was really good because it kept me. It was like my start of my like game design like brain, right? Is where I was like, okay, so I'm analyzing games, I'm figuring out what they mean, like what does this mean? And so I had this gaming journal, and it was great. Um, uh, and yeah, I just kind of went with it. It was great. It was a good time. So I thought, okay, let's bring that back. Um, and so that's what I did this year. I was like, great. The goal this year is just to have fun. Last year, like 2024, 3 was a wash. Just done with it. It was terrible. We're just gonna have fun in 2024. So any game that I play, I just write the name down, and then below it, I write like a little blurb, and that was the gaming journal. This is it. This is the actual gaming journal that I have. It's right here next to me right now. I'm still keeping track of it. Um, and it was super simple. I didn't need to be by a computer or anything. I could throw this thing in my bag. All I needed was this pen. This is a Papermate Inkjoy pen, by the way. If you like pens, this is the pen for you. It's very good. They come in like a little 4-pack. They're very good pens. As a pen fan, I recommend them. And then also, this is the notepad. It's a pucker pad. I'm just gonna squiggly woog off screen for a second. It's made from like recycled paper or something, but the quality of the paper in there is very good. Um, and I highly recommend if you want a notepad. It's very good. And yeah, that was it. I kind of kept that. Oh, and also the format. Sorry, I forgot about the format. So the format was this. It has a date. That was the date of like the day that I played it. Also, don't read the comments. When I write, I usually don't keep track of my spelling or grammar. I just write from my brain and just whatever. I don't care. So it probably is all misspelled and terrible grammar, but don't worry about that. That's why notes. They're notes. You refine them later on. So there was a date. There was a list of games. So in this example, it was the 11th of April 2024, and I was playing Dawn of War 2, The Last Stand. Fantastic game. Everybody should play it. And Broken Age. And then finally, there's the little comments below. I will say that the more that time went on, the less comments I wrote. When you've played a game for maybe like 4 days in a row, and the initial thoughts start dying out, you just kind of start writing like random stuff that just didn't inspire you, especially for some of the games I played. You know, there's only so many times you can write how great Splatoon 3 is before you just start writing, yay. So the comments kind of died down as it all went on, and mostly I kept track of the games I played, but it was good. It was a nice solution. And by the end of the year, that was it. I had fun. It was a good time. It was fantastic. I had I didn't have to stress about anything. I wasn't keeping track of data. I was mostly just kind of having a good time. I get to write about games, and I love that. And that was it. I wrapped myself in 2024, and that was a good time. And I really did enjoy it. I'm ready to take some questions now. So if people want to start asking questions, then you go for it. If you're on YouTube, you can leave the comment and stuff like that, and I'll get back to you. Hmm. Actually, hang on. Wait a second. I've just realized something. Yeah, I had fun. It was actually pretty good. Like, it was a good gaming journal. I had a really good time playing it, but it wasn't just all about fun, actually. Because I have data. I collected data. I without knowing it or realizing it, I was collecting data. We were tracking how many games I played and for how many days and things like that. So I could make a spreadsheet. And I did. Look at all this. This is the rest of the presentation. Thank you, welcome. I tricked you all. I know, I'm a genius. So, let's get into this, because we're about to talk about data and spreadsheets, and man, we're gonna have such a good time. Okay, so, again, we can stop making games now, guys. That's it. I have the data to prove it. Let's carry on. So let's talk about the games list. If you were here for the tier list, you know that I played a lot of games last year. I will tell you how many specifically in a few seconds, in a few minutes. But this is the full list. I had a great time playing a lot of these. You know, there was many good games last year, and I can tell you exactly how many games from last year that I played. I can also tell you a bunch of other things. So let's get into that, right? Let's talk about the data. So first off, here's a visual representation of all the games. You can see them there. Again, if you've seen the tier list, you know a lot about my feelings about lots of these games, but that's kind of it. So what data did we collect? So first off, we have the date played. I wrote down exactly the date of which date I started playing that game, and that gives me a bit of data. From there, I have an order of play, because I kept track of them in order by date. That gives me an order of play. I also have the game name. I also have the game itself, because I know what game I played. That also gives me access to the name, the genre of the game, because I know that, the hardware I played it on, the release decade, and also the release year. I also get to know if I finished that game, because I kept track of that. And I know how many sessions I played of that game, because I can go through the journal and basically put like a tick next to it and be like, okay, so I played this game like 17 times. So we have all that data. What does this get us in terms of results? So let's start off with the number of games I played. So if you were here for the tier list, you already know I played 132 games. What you may not have known is that I finished 99 of them. That's finished is a weird bit of a state, because what we have is a state of I can finish a game as in like I get to the ending and see credits, but also I can finish a game when I personally say I'm done with it. A good example of this was Betrayer. Betrayer was an okay game at the start. I really enjoyed it, and then the more I played it, the more I had seen exactly what the game was about, and I just kind of said, no, I'm done, and I just left it. So I didn't get to the ending of the game, but I did just kind of tick that off the list and was like, yeah, I'm done with that. So it's not so much that I finished like every game that I played or the whole 99 games, it's mostly that I was just done with some of them. And for the people who like percentages, I finished 75% of the games that I played. That's pretty cool. That actually rounded out to an like even 75%, by the way. That's not really like rounding up or rounding down. It was literally 75%, which I thought was pretty cool. So where else do we play? I don't think I need to. Okay. Here is the games that I played the most. As always, we know that Splatoon was a lot yet last year. It was the end of Splatoon, so we were very dedicated to playing Splatoon last year. It was, I think, up until the date that we finished playing, or finished the catalog, was the Final Fest. Like, that's 109 like sessions. You could say that's days, you could say that's sessions. It's a bit skew-iffy, but whatever. Next on the list was like Front Mission 2, the remake, which again, if you've seen the tier list video, you know I hated that game, and it was not very good. And then next we've got Granblue Fantasy Relink and White Knight Chronicles. Loved Granblue Fantasy Relink, hated White Knight Chronicles, but begrudgingly played it for 32 sessions / days. And then finally, in the back of it, we've got like Graveyard Keeper, which again, I enjoyed. It was okay. It can be a lot better. But what's really funny about these stats is that if we look at the Wrapped from from the main people. So there's Nintendo, Sony, and Steam, or Valve, whichever one you want to say. You can see that the data's correct, which is kind of weird. If we look over here, this is Splatoon 3. Next to it, that's Front Mission 2. If we look at my top game for 2024, that's Grand Blue Fantasy Relink. And if we look down here, you could probably see it. I might have to move out of the way. But here's Graveyard Keeper. That means that, like, all the data that I tracked for myself is actually reflected by the people who usually send me wrapped data at the end, which is pretty cool. I was like, when that came in and I saw that at the end of the year, I was like super excited about it. I was like, oh my god, wow, I actually like did the thing that they usually do, but I just did it myself. And that's cool. That's like super cool. Also, the people who are paying attention and have already calculated, you can see that the Nintendo, Sony, and Valve games equal 171 played. So if you add up the 54, the 74, and the 43, it says 171. That means that my data is actually like, I'm missing some. I don't know why. I don't know how I missed them, but maybe it was just the fact that there's human error. And that's something to like keep in mind when you're tracking data, is that human error can sometimes happen. It's why a lot of people just kind of like automate things, because you know, when a machine can just be like tick, it's easier. If I need to remember what I played and then write it down, that means there's room for error. But it's still cool, the fact that all the games that I played and all the games that I tracked and my most played games are actually reflected in the Wrapped for the year. I thought that was super cool, and I really enjoyed that because I'm a nerd, and I was like, hells yeah, that's super cool. So let's look at some more stats. Let's look at like the genres that I played last year. What was the most popular genre I played? I'm gonna allow chat and allow you to comment in about this. What do you think was the most popular genre from last year? I'm gonna give you 5 seconds to answer. I'm gonna take a sip of tea. Okay, that's it. We're done. RPG. Okay, RPG. People are saying RPG. It was actually shooters. It was shooters. Shooters was the most popular. I played 30 shooter games. Also, I'm just going to scoot out of the way so you can see the rest of these stats for a second. Beep, 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 beep. As you can see, there's a bunch of stuff there. You know, shooters, RPGs, action games, adventure games, platformers, so on and so forth. There's a whole bunch. I'm coming back. There's a whole bunch. I got it through a lot of games. But yeah, the stats reveal that, hey man, I played a lot of shooters. And that could be for a whole bunch of reasons. Maybe last year there was a lot of shooters. Maybe my tastes were just like, hey man, I really need to shoot things in the face. Or maybe, you know, other reasons. Maybe I was filling the hole that Splatoon 3 had left in my soul, you know? We could probably dig down into that further. We could look into that further, actually. We won't, but we could. Also, RPGs. Also, just to kind of like clarify something here, RPGs and shooters are my favorite by default. I love a good first-person shooter, third-person shooter, shmup, whatever. They're my jam. Also, RPGs, I've been playing them since I was a kid. So the data reflects that basically what I already personally know is that I play a lot of shooters and RPGs. The one thing that I do want to point out, and that I am kind of ashamed with, is that I only played 5 hogs last year. Only 5 of them. Really disappointed in that. I know I let myself down. I let my family down. There's not much I can do about it, you know? It just wasn't a great year for hogs. For people who don't know, a hog is a hidden object game. And I'm a big fan of them. But, you know, last year, I guess I just wasn't feeling the hog, you know? That's it. That's it. So, do we want to take another guess about what was the most popular console or hardware I played last year? I'll give you 5 seconds to answer. I'm gonna take a sip. Okay, so people are saying PC. You'd be right by a pretty big margin. Hang on, let me just scoot out of the way for 5 seconds. Ugh. Scoot, 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 scoot. As you can see, PC won by a lot, and we had Switch to follow up with the PlayStations right behind them. Um, and the reason why PC is most popular is that I counted PC as Steam Deck. So Steam Deck isn't on here, but I kind of lumped them both into the same thing. Technically, I know they're not the same thing, but in my brain box they are. Uh, and yeah, I can kind of confidently say here that um, the reason why PC is the most popular is because I played a lot on Steam Deck last year. Um, Otherwise, I think this would be a lot less. Basically, I think if I kept track of stuff from like a few years back, Switch would be up there and PC would be like way down here someplace, right? But because of the Steam Deck, it really like just had me playing a lot of older games that I never played, like I've not really played. Like even things from like years ago, I was like, oh, if it works on Steam Deck, then why shouldn't I play it? And that's what I was doing. I was just playing a lot of like older things on Steam Deck because it was there and it was easy. I didn't have to turn on my PC, like wait a long time for everything to turn on and whatnot. It was just the way it was. It was really good. Um, so yeah, Steam Deck. In closing, Steam Deck is great. Love mine. It's very good. I enjoy playing it. I enjoy using it. It's very good. It's a very good console. Um, but it is a glorified PC at the end of the day. So I just lumped her into PC. Uh, it probably would be interesting to see if that was like what's the difference between like actual PC and Steam Deck. But I didn't write that down. I just kind of wrote the name of the game and then was like, I guess that's on PC. Did I play it on Steam Deck? I don't really remember. So yeah, again, stats might be a bit skewiffed, but it's fine. Also, another thing we need to point out, again, very ashamed of myself. I only played 2 3DS games last year, which I know, again, I'm super disappointed in myself. I've let myself down. I've let my family down. I've let everybody down. 3DS is my favorite console. I love it to bits. I still have it. It's like sitting next to me right now. But I only managed to play 2 3DS games last year. So that's sad. I hope to do better this year. I've already started Yokai Watch. But we can do better. This is why we have the data, and now we can improve for next year. I guess this year now. But anyway, let's move on. So this is one of my favorite stats, by the way. I'm gonna nerd out about this for a bit. But hey, the decades played. So we basically went from like 1980 to 2020, and the games that we played across those decades, right? So 1980, 90s, 2000s, 2010s, 2020s, right? Um, and yeah, and we show that 2010 was the most popular decade. I played 58 games from that decade. That could be attributed to, I was catching up on things. I was maybe feeling a little bit nostalgic for those years. That could be happening. Or it could be that, again, the Steam Deck played a big role in that situation and basically said like, hey, you've had Steam for like, I think it's like a long time. I think about 17 years. It might be less. I think it's 15. I'm gonna say 15 years. And so, that covers a long stretch of time, right? And it just meant that a bunch of games from that decade I got to play, and it was great. It was interesting. Um, and I learned a lot of game design rules from 2010, which is quite funny, uh, especially when you bring those over to 2020 and everybody's already doing them. But again, we'll follow that up in 2020. I got to like 37 games as well. But another good stat to break down is that we can look at like the years themselves. I'm going to say the next graph is not great. I'm going to say that the presentation on it is not fine, is not fantastic, but we're just going to talk about it anyway. I'm also going to hopefully try and not... Okay, I'm covering that up. I'm going to scoot off for a second. Whee! So, as you can see, we have a years tracked of the games that I played within those years, right? I'll just talk about 2024 for a second. Played 10 games in 2024. We've already covered those and whatnot, and you know, as we know, my favorite game from like last year was Grand Blue Fantasy Relink, along with Another Crab's Treasure. So we know that we played those, and those are really good. One other interesting fact is by just one, 2021 is the most popular year for the games that I played. So a bunch of those came from 2021. That was really cool. But one other thing that I just want to point out, because I thought it was really interesting, is that if you look at the whole chart, left to right, you can see that I played almost one game in each year from the first game that I played, or the first, like, oldest game that I played, I should say. So from 1986 all the way up to 2024. The only years that I missed were 88, 89, 90, 98, and 2004. I only missed like 5 years that I didn't play like at least one game in, which I thought was kind of cool. I was like, oh my god, like, dude, if only I'd played like 5 games, I could have had like a whole going along situation, and that would have been wicked. But I didn't. So, you know, whatever. But I thought that was really cool. Again, it also just shows, you know, even like from 2023, I only played like 3 games from that year. And, you know, if we look at like the second most popular, we've got like 10, like 2019 and 2024 with 10. And then below that, we've got 2012 and 2017. Probably attribute those to, you know, I should probably maybe look at that. Of why those years were the most popular. But again, it could be looking at the Steam Deck, looking at what's support on the Steam Deck, and just playing a bunch of stuff from the Steam Deck. That's that. All right, so now we're going to do a data review. This is what happens, right? This is what happens is that now that we have all that data, we can start understanding like something about that player, right? Or about the player. So now that we have it, we know that they're a gamer, which is pretty obvious. Like, the whole thing is to track data about their gaming anyway. We know that they're a completionist, because we know that they finish the majority of their games, 75%. We know that they are into shooters and RPGs. We know that they play majority on PC and Switch. And we know that the majority of the games they play are in like the modern era. So we could count the modern era from like mid 2010 to like now, right? That's the last 10 years. So they're playing the majority of games within those years, right? And then we can make like a little user profile for them. So the player is an avid gamer who looks to finish many of the games they start. The player plays mostly modern games with preference for games from 2010s to now. The player's genres of choice are shooters and RPGs. The player often prefers to play on PC, open brackets, Steam Deck, close brackets, or Switch. And it's best to keep in mind that they are both portable consoles. And that's interesting. That's cool. That's what happens. But also, you know, we can also learn, unfortunately, from the player that however, the player has let themselves down by not playing more hogs and ignoring their favorite console, the 3DS. And we can also learn from this maybe that when we inform the player's family of this, the family made the correct choice to disown them, and we should probably help this boy at the end of the day. They are, you know, they've let themselves down. So there's a stupid bit of fun at the end with that thing. Ignore this part, don't worry about it. But basically, like, what happens with this data review is that when you collect a bunch of data on people, like you generate this thing, and this is like a user, or I guess like an audience review essentially, and it kind of sums up like what the data is revealing about the player, or in this case, like me. You know, you write a little sentence about them, and you say like, all right, this is the audience we are chasing. We know that they like all these things, and so we need to chase that audience. That's kind of what this thing is here. The rest of it's all made up. I just thought it was funny. But, you know, this top part is actually relevant to, like, collecting data. And it's very interesting. I've seen a bunch of these as I've been working in the games industry. You write these all the time because you're kind of aiming for an audience, and this is kind of the audience that you chase. Let's talk about like some changes. So, you know, let's talk about the changes to the gaming journal itself and how we can address like some things that maybe I missed, and some things that were, you know, could be improved. So what would I change about it? The one thing that I would definitely change is that keeping track of both the journal and the data at the same time. At the end of the year, I spent a lot of time kind of like writing up all the stuff that I had in the journal to a spreadsheet, and I had to make the spreadsheet. And it didn't take a lot of time, but it would have been easier if I just tracked them side by side so that I didn't have to like keep like just throw all the data back in at the end, right? So I'm doing that now. I have a whole different spreadsheet that I've made, and it's keeping track of both the data that's in the journal and on the spreadsheet itself. And the other part is that with that data sheet, because it was slap bang together really quickly, it wasn't the best thing ever made. It was very much just rough. So it was like things just sitting in the side, and that means potential for like losing data and not keeping track of certain things. So we can refine the data set. So if we look at like 2024's example versus 2025, I'm going to scoot out the way just so people can see this. Boop, beep, boop, beep, boop, beep, boop, beep. You know, in the 2024 example, we are tracking, you know, as I said, game name and release year and platform and everything that we covered. But in 2025, we're looking at like just refining that a little bit more. You know, the things to like really point out here before I scoot back over there, is that the days, the date finished and days to finished and the finished themselves, that's all like a separate tick box now, which is really nice. So I don't have to like type in words or anything. But also it allows me to like keep track of not only like the sessions I played, but also the days that it took for me to finish that. We come back for a second. The other things to really like point out here is that I've put like release year and hardware and genre into a drop-down list now. So instead of having to like match data to a specific like name, and that can cause like errors, because say if I type in like I don't know, if I type in platformer and I misspell platformer, then that's not going to get counted as the data at the end. It's just going to be like, well, you missed one. I will say that I did have a lot of checks in on the sheet itself to make sure I didn't do that. I was double checking everything. So that probably didn't happen, but to avoid mistakes like that, now if I have them in a drop-down box, I can just be like, cool, that's like platformer, an RPG, and I can only choose from the list instead of like typing things in manually. The other thing is that you may have noticed on the days to finish, I'll scoot over here again for a second. It's got like this long number that's like minus 4,560.58, like that number. That's because I don't have like anything put into date finished, so it just kind of goes, I don't know, whatever. That will be fixed when I put a date in for like It Takes Two. As you can see on like Chrono Trigger, it already has like a date in there, so it corrects it to like, okay, that took you like 1 day to finish, or you know, it from the day you started to the day you finished. This is how many days passed. Yes. Also, the other thing is that I automated the finished tag as well, in that when a date is input into days finished, it just automatically ticks the finish box. So I never have to touch the finish box now. So again, that removes like human error, which is great. Like it just totally removes it. I don't need to worry about that anymore. When a game is finished, and it just ticks the box for me. Great. Can you tell that I love spreadsheets? I'm a loser and I love spreadsheets. I apologize. But yeah, that's like all of it done. It's been really good. I've like refined it. I really enjoy this spreadsheet. Jesus Christ. Whoever said that you could enjoy a spreadsheet? This is kind of it. And that's really good. So let's talk about what the next project is, right? We're in 2025. We have a bunch of new projects, or we have a new project in the making. And what the hell is this one? This is called Operation Sell Stuff. This is a good reason behind this, and mostly because I have to, or begrudgingly have to, is that I have no job. As people probably know, I lost my job 7 months ago, and now I have to kind of sell my collection. Also, my collection is out of control. There's too many games. I buy too many games, as we already know. And so I just need to sort that out. So we're going to keep track of things. We're going to sell a bunch of my collection. But before I do that, I do want to play the games that I have in my collection. I have like, from PS1 all the way up to like today. So I do want to play them. And that's where like the stream comes in. I'll be playing those on the stream channel. Starlight Now, twitch.tv/Starlight Now. And you can watch me play those games, and then if I don't like them, I'll move them on, and if I don't, then they'll stay in my collection, but hopefully not. And yeah, the ultimate goal for this project is to sell £1,000 worth of games. And hopefully we'll get there. So as you can see, here's the total over here. Why is that not 1,000? Well, we've two weeks into the year by now, and yeah, this is why. So for every game I purchase, I add to the total, right? So what we have is like I need to sell £1,000 worth of games, but for every like game that I buy, that total increases, right? So if we just reveal this right now, as you can see on the purchase list, it's been 2 weeks into the year, maybe 3. And we can already see that I've already bought too many video games. I've spent £258 on them actually, which is not good, and I should stop doing that. But in other news, positive, I've sold some. Yeah, that's pretty cool, right? I sold £112 worth of games so far. Doesn't really cut out the purchased, but just progress. It's progress. We did it. And that's what I'm going to be tracking for the year. I'll also be doing like the gaming journal on the side. But this is the main project of the year, is to reduce my collection and really just kind of dig into the games that I want to keep versus the games that I'm just kind of holding on to. I think that's like the main part of it, is to, I buy a bunch of games, then I just never play them, and then they just sit there and they don't do anything. And I want to get through them. I want to be able to say like, cool, I've done this. I can add this to the pile and get rid of it, and I never need to think about it ever again. And that's why we're tracking this stuff. This is why we're doing this. And hopefully we'll get through this. So I'm hoping to start like this project like, the playing the games part next week. And we'll get through it. We'll be fine. And that's kind of it. We're done. So I'm going to take questions. Again, if you have questions, you can leave them in comments. But if you are in chat right now, you can ask questions. I can answer them, and we'll get through this. But yeah, put your questions in chat now. But also just to throw this out there, hey, please hire me. I am a game designer with 10 plus years of experience. I've worked a lot on like mobile games and AAA stuff. And if you need a really cool designer who loves spreadsheets and does like a bunch of other things, then please hire me. You can just reach out and I will get back to you. All right. I'm gonna stop the recording here, and I'm gonna come back to you, chat. Thank you for being beautiful and sitting through that.